So, are we recording? Okay, so yeah, just the usual announcement that the meetings are recorded. So if anyone does not wish to be voice recorded, then don't speak. But if you remain and do wish to speak, then please be aware that the meetings are recorded, and then the public will have access to those recordings. But it is 7 o'clock, so I will start the meeting. And the first item is public participation session. So we do have some members of the public who are very welcome. Would you like to say anything this evening? Okay, then, in your own time, if you want to come to the corner here, and if Councillor Owen can, press the button. Brilliant.
Right. I'm not sure how up to date I am on what I came to speak about. I actually prefer to stand if you don't mind. I'll say what I originally intended to say, but I've had no information about what I want to talk about, and I hope none of it is wrong. But anyway, I'm Peter Lloyd. I'm Secretary of the Residents Association, covering Ferrers Road, Rough Street and Stewart Road. We're close members to the neighbours to the Central Car Park. In 2022, after a series of accidents and a long time in the asking, the Town Council agreed to commission works to make the exit to the Central Car Park safer for pedestrians. Once the changes were made, the exit both was and felt safer, but last month, effective but worn speed bumps were replaced by ones of a different design that allowed vehicles to pass through at increased speeds. The change in speed was obvious to any observer. When we reported the effect that the changes had on speed, assurances were made about the new ramp safety. It was only when one of our councillors saw and verified what was happening that the last part of item 19, which is the last item on the agenda, about the ramps, was added to the agenda for this meeting. Once the agenda appeared, we learned that the specified height of the new ramps was 55 millimetres. We measured them using a spirit level and a steel ruler, finding them to be only 30 millimetres high, 25 millimetres below the specified height. Can you please correct me if I'm wrong with this? It's galling to see that the list of remedial options in the agenda includes painting white lines, quote, to identify a pedestrian crossing. When we met a highways engineer at the exit during the design process a few years ago, he made clear to us how ineffective it was to paint white lines at a junction where the main problem is the confusion caused to drivers by the amount of information and number of decisions they confront all at once, leading them too often to fail to register the presence of pedestrians. We aren't highways engineers, but we can read the advice that manufacturers and suppliers of road safety equipment provide for their clients. We believe that there are other design flaws in the new ramps. As well as being the wrong height, we think they're the wrong shape. What has been created are speed humps, not speed bumps. And as we understand it, speed humps are not suitable for that location. Speed humps are wider across gently sloped, raised areas with a rounded profile. They provide a smoother ride than speed bumps and are usually found in residential areas and other places where moderate speed reductions in passing traffic is desired. Speed bumps are less wide and more abrupt. They are designed to reduce vehicle speeds in car parks, near schools, and in other areas where very low speeds are necessary for safety and to protect pedestrians. The rounded tarmac humps, now in position, replaced a succession of plastic speed bumps, which had a V-shaped profile with a sharp upwards incline, a rounded top, and a sharp decline. So, I think the reason I said that is that we really want professional highways engineer involved in the design of any changes to the exit to that car park. So I also want to say why we're so concerned about safety at that junction, and that's because of our personal experience of a series of accidents that happened there over the years, going back to 2008. Our subjective impressions are supported by the Crash Map website, which shows a cluster of accidents there over the years until the junction was improved. And then I've gone on, I've written down a couple of accidents that happened to elderly people, life-changing accidents. There were more, but I'll leave that detail out. So we're an organised group and can collect a database of accidents, but hundreds of other pedestrians use that crossing every day. It's a prime route to work, to the town centre or school. Cyclists use it, and accidents there have involved both cyclists and motorcycles as well as pedestrians. The Smithfield car park is also used as an active through road. It's not unusual for 6,000 vehicles, 12 a minute, to exit it over a working day. We did some traffic surveys there. We saw 6,000 vehicles exit it over the working day. Obviously not all parking, a lot of them just using it as a road. All these vehicles cross the busy footpath. So, like I concluded, we think it's safety critical for you to replace the tarmac speed humps with professionally designed and manufactured speed bumps located in a position and with fixings recommended by a qualified highways engineer so as to adequately slow traffic approaching this heavily used junction. I'll bring it to an end there.
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, it is on the agenda, as you say, but I don't know if Aaron's got anything he can add at this point.
Just to add, Peter, you sort of did mention about the measurements, and we'll come on to talk about it later. We've been out and measured as well. They are below that. You know, we've commissioned a suitably qualified contractor to do the work. It is less than we specified, absolutely. We are talking about, there is a difference of opinion in terms of the measurements, but we are just talking about, 10 millimetres, which is just a centimetre, isn't it? So they are smaller than they should be. I think that's a conclusion that we need to draw. And Henry will talk about it a little bit in his estates report later on.
Thank you. Your turn, if you'd like to. No, okay. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys. Right, okay, we'll move on if there's no one else who wishes to speak. Oh, yes, was just going to mention before we get fully underway the really positive news that the council has once again. Are we finalists in the Star Council Awards?
It depends how you want to pitch it. You could say we're one of the top 5 parish council in the country,
that
if you want
better.
to spin it one way. But yeah, we're one of the 5 amazing local councils that have been shortlisted for Star Council of the Year.
Yeah, and I'm not going to, brag about it because, no organisation is ever perfect, but I just wanted to highlight this because it is obviously largely down to the hard work and dedication of the amazing officers and staff that we have, that we are privileged to have working for us. And I think, a word of appreciation, and especially at this time of year when we do start to think about the things that we're grateful for, definitely, having the people on the staff here, I think is right up there on my list. So thank you very much to Aaron, Henry, Sandra, the officers here tonight. But if you could also pass on our thanks and appreciation to everyone, it's a massive achievement. So thank you. Okay, apologies for absence, item 2A. Quite a list, I believe. I don't have it in front of me. Sorry, Henry.
Apologies received from councillors Jones, Stackhouse, Wadey, Price, Upton, Maguire and Chadwick.
That's it. Yeah. Move we accept. All in favour? Thank you very much. And 2B is disclosure of councillors' interests in matters relating to the Code of Conduct. Councillor Froggatt?
On item 8, appendix B is the name of the allotment holder and then the association. I think that it's sort of leave it over there.
Thank you very much. Any others this evening?
Yeah,
No?
Mr.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Mayor, just for absolute transparency, item 8C, grants and donations, the application considered by Osprey Society of Church Bell Ringers. I will leave the room for that discussion. The applicant is a friend.
Okay. Thanks very much. And Councillor Moore?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Same thing for me for the application for April, who came in, somebody who I got to know during my time as mayor, although I haven't spent any time with her outside of that. I would consider her a friend, so we'll declare a bias. Thank you.
No problem. So that's item 8A. Thank you, councillors and town clerk. Item 3 then, the minutes of council meeting from the 6th of November 2024 and the extraordinary council meeting of the 27th of November 2024. Does anyone need to raise any issues with those minutes? No, I'll move we approve then. All in favour? Thank you. Any against? Sorry, Councillor Milner.
For the 6th, but,
Okay, one abstention on the 6th, but in favour for the 27th. Thank you. Any other against? Any abstentions? No. Item 4 then, subcommittees and working groups. 4A, the police partnership panel, attached minutes from the meeting of the 13th of November.
Can I just come in? Mr. Mayor, on that one. There aren't any recommendations within there, but as members of the police partnership panel know, there has been a piece of work been undertaken to reduce antisocial behaviour in King Street and Eden Court. That was the work led by Intensive Engagement. That work is now concluded, but as part of that there are some considerations about improving CCTV and street lighting in that area. It is likely that will be brought to the Town Council for consideration to see if you can provide some funding for that. But also just need to reference the fact that today I was invited to a bronze level tasking meeting. So that is an officer-led meeting where you have an opportunity to highlight any areas of concern, and it's very specific. The meeting was arranged after our last meeting, so I couldn't tell you that it was going ahead. So it is an officer meeting, but I just need to let you know that that is happening. It's a positive thing. Interestingly, references the police partnership panel a lot, so credit to the members for the work that you do on that.
Okay, thank you for that information. Councillor Milner.
yeah, just reading about the antisocial behaviour and joyriders again on the central car park. And it says that the police would track them down and had a word with them, and nothing since. Let's hope they carry on doing that, because it seems to have helped. Obviously, nip it in the bud. So it's nice to see the police actually taking action there and addressing the problem.
Information sharing is what it's all about, isn't it? And working together. So, yeah, good. Okay, so move that we note those minutes. All in favour? Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. And 4B, the Kyglass Park and Cemetery Management Group. Aaron, do you want to come in on that one as well?
Yeah, I do apologise, Mr. Mayor. So please tell me to be quiet yeah, there are a couple of recommendations on there. He says, flicking through, one regarding the Crazy Golf and the support for. Let me just find it. I do apologise. Developing a project. So you just bring that to your attention.
Find it.
So yeah, item 7, mini golf upgrade. So there's a resolution there to progress that and to establish the working group, so the Caiglas and Cemetery working group basically as a tender working group to go through the specification and detail for that. So that if members support that, that will be added to the project list this evening. And then the gym equipment. Members of the Caiglas management group discussed the need to update the fitness equipment. We will be bringing a further report back to you on that one because the sum is over the amount we can accept without additional quotations, and we need quotations for installation, but it's something that members support. It's just a case of just fine-tuning the final project. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Anyone wish to speak or have any questions for Aaron on this?
Happy to just move the recommendations as one of the members who was there.
Okay, happy to second that. All in favour? Thank you. Item 5, to answer any questions in accordance with standing orders.
No questions.
No questions. Item 6, Shropshire Council updates. I've not got an update, but our other member present is Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, it's all a bit humbug, doom and gloom, I'm afraid. Finance is obviously a very serious issue for Shropshire. So the local government settlement you probably saw on the face of it looked pretty good for, well, pretty good, it looked reasonable for councils. Unfortunately, it never is what it seems to be sometimes. So the headline figure is a headline figure from the government's perspective. That's how much money it's put into local government. You then get into these terrible issues around the formula they use and how that's adjusted. And you don't know the outcome of this. We still don't know now. We'll learn next week will be the provisional allocation for Shropshire. What's happened in the interim time is that it's very clear that the new Labour government wishes to move resources into deprived areas. It believes that the deprived areas have been missed out significantly over the last 14 years and wants to set about correcting that. You might or may not be surprised to hear that Shropshire does not feature as a deprived area. Now, it's quite difficult to know quite how far down this line they will go, but the people sort of, I'm on the sort of budget group with the leader and various other people, were sort of saying, well, the last time we were faced with this, we were of the opinion they wouldn't do that, would they? This was in 2010 when the coalition government introduced austerity, and they did that and more. So there is a real fear, I have to say, in Shropshire that they may actually receive no increase whatsoever. So you can forget about NI compensation, you can forget about all the things you've heard about, because it's the weird world of local government. The government essentially will say, we've given it to you because it's in the formula, but you haven't got the money because we've taken out for deprivation and reallocated that money, and in doing that, you've lost all that. Yeah, it is very... we know in a week's time. Obviously, we hope it won't be as bleak as that, but it is potentially very bleak. There is a consultation exercise going out very shortly on budget savings, and I would urge everybody to get involved in that and give their views on that. It has some issues in which I think there's a pity Peter's gone actually, because one of the issues there, for instance, is charging people for residence parking areas. At the moment, there's not really any charging, obviously, because of the time it was put in. That was the situation back in 2008-9. But, you know, so there's lots of things in there which I think would cause concern to many people. It doesn't mean that all of them are going to happen, but probably some of them are going to happen. So it's well worth getting involved and filling in the consultation. There is some passing of services notice to Shrewsbury Town. So Shrewsbury Town, well, obviously a bigger operation than us, have successfully or unsuccessfully, call it what you like, had transfer of assets from Shropshire Council to Shrewsbury Town Council. I have to say, from Shrewsbury Town Council, that's come with a £250,000 loss of funding, because these were services that Shrewsbury Town Council actually provided, but they've now got the asset, but they've lost £250,000 of funding at the same time. So there's a pain, even though there's possibly a gain in Shrewsbury running those. And I think there'll be more to come. I think you can see some of the significant assets that Shropshire's got in Shrewsbury being divested down. So we may, as a second town in Shropshire, we may start to hear more about that. The other news you may or may not have picked up on is there's a very critical audit report on the North West Relief Road. The carbon emissions from that road has now been doubled in their estimation, and the shortfall on money to complete that is now 90 million, because the cost of it is now 178 million pounds. The only possible source of that funding seems to be from the capital that Shropshire Council received from the last government of 153 million, but obviously if you spend 90 million of 153 million on one road, you've got a lot less left over to spend on all the other roads in Shropshire. So that would be, obviously I'm personally opposed to that, but that would be probably for the first time you could say that in building a North West Relief Road there's going to be some consequential reduction in services elsewhere.
Okay. Thank you very much. Item 7 then. Sorry, Councillor.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I was just thinking I should ask.
I don't know, this is addressed to Councillor Kerr. Do you know what's happening with the railway station? That scaffolding seems to have been up there for years, costing probably the taxpayer tens of thousands of pounds. I've heard different rumours, but what's happening? Are they going to be turned back into flats?
Yeah, interesting. I asked the same question on the budget group when setting the capital programme. So currently what's happening is £800,000 is being spent on the external shell of the building. You've seen the roof. The roof was re-roofed in asbestos slates, for God's sake. So obviously that had needed to be completely re-roofed. The core bales, which are entirely cosmetic as it turns out, all had to be re-secured. They were literally nailed in. That's how they were built. But obviously if they fell off from that height, they would take a few people out on their way down. So your £800,000 will just get you a building still without any heating system, still without any viable end use, still with a lot of internal problems. There is a further sum going into the capital programme next year, I think of around £450,000. I have to say, when we had a presentation at Futurosity Group about this, and the person said, well, the obviously best use for the first floor is flats, as you suggested, but he was putting the cost of doing that sort of works around 700, 800,000. It may be that a housing association could put some capital in itself, so it may be, but we're still a little way off from having a viable end use. Whenever I ask the same question you asked, it's been scaffolded for a very long time. I'm just told, well, we tendered the price. That they're not going to get any more money if they take longer, because that's the price that was agreed. I understand the logic of that, but it's frustrating because the roof's not been re-roofed, is it? For a long, long time, it's just had the felt on the roof pending the arrival of the tiles, slate, sorry, presumably.
Yeah, if it does become flats, hopefully they'll be offered to people, local residents who live in Oswald Street.
Yeah, well, I don't know. They're talking about 3 quite large flats, and I think we will have to argue very strongly for them to be used for social housing, because I think there'll be some people who think we can get a high rent for these on the market, because they're quite, they're quite prestigious outlook, aren't they?
Thanks, Councillor. Okay. Any other questions? No. Item 7 then, Shropshire Council budget consultation that has been published by Shropshire Council. There's a link to the press release. Among the ideas proposed to go out to public consultation next month include reviewing whether more services could be devolved to other organisations. So is this just for noting, or are we...
It is primarily for noting. It's a critical budget. As Councillor Kerr has just said, there is some devolution of services with finances, which is an interesting shift in position. We have no update to give. I haven't had any meetings aside from the one on the Land at the Leisure Centre, which I'll just give you a brief update on. Okay. So I've been in discussion with the estates team a while ago, set out the town council's wishes, those areas that we're willing to have a conversation about, including, as we have a problem with storage, town centre properties. We need additional welfare facilities and storage. Asked the question, asked if we can go around Castle View and the Wilco's building, but I've had no dates set out. But yeah, so it's just yeah.
Okay, Councillor Kerr.
I would like to propose, I think as a town council it's worth responding as a town council. I know it's difficult because I don't see the whole document, but I mean, I think any indication that is shared services we would welcome, and we say that is a good way forward, you should be talking to us more about that. And I think if there's a question in there which infers they could be charging for residential parking areas, I think we need to say that that would only be acceptable if there was commensurate enforcement, because at the moment I'm being told nobody enforces it, so why on earth would I pay for some place I can park for free without a permit? So, and I think those would be supported by the residents there, and then individuals can respond to the rest.
Okay, yeah, we can all respond to the consultation ourselves, but but Councillor Kerr's proposing that we do respond as a council. So how could we achieve that?
Yeah, just fill in the form online. So it's fairly straightforward to do.
Yeah.
Just so to be clear what
But
what
do we need
instruction-
to?
We need to have a motion, don't you? Which is, you've got a motion,
Yeah.
you've got a second.
Yeah, is there a second of Councillor Kerr? Thank you, Councillor Milner. And would it appear on a future agenda item?
No, it's just going to go as a submission. Yeah.
Okay, so all in favour of Councillor Kerr's motion then?
Do you want to debate
Sorry.
on it? Do you want to debate on it first? Isn't
Yeah,
it?
sorry. So I'm not feeling 100% tonight, as you might have noticed, but right, okay. Sorry, Aaron, can I just have a little bit of help? Sorry, Councillor Owen.
Could we use, we obviously did a consultation a couple of months ago, could we basically reiterate what we've asked through that, because it was within 6 months, we can't change anything that we asked before, so just a matter of reiterating what we asked for previously.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor, because I feel like we've discussed this before, or is this? Oh no, this is on the budget rather than the devolution of services. So sorry.
Unfortunately, I haven't seen a draft. You will not have free text to say what you think. These are defined questions to which you say you agree, oppose strongly, agree strongly. So, I mean, you can send a separate letter, but I don't think that won't be analysed because they haven't got the capacity to do that. So it's on those specific questions.
Okay. So I'm sorry, I'm confused as to what are we?
Okay. So
Station was, sorry.
yeah. So so this is a part of the budget consultation, Mr. Mayor.
I might
So-
have to step outside just for a minute if that's okay. Sorry, Rosie, can you just? Thanks. Sorry, everybody.
Would somebody just make sure that the mayor's okay?
I'll just take this glass of water.
Let's take a recess for a second.
Sorry.
Okay, guys, give ourselves a couple of minutes.
We'll only just give him a second. Yeah. Make sure he's all right. Okay. All right, everybody. Good to go. I just want to make sure he's okay. That's nothing more than that. It started to deteriorate quite quickly there. So, okay, happy to carry on.
Okay, councillors. So we were looking at item number 7, Shropshire Council budget consultation. Duncan had put a proposal forward for a motion in terms of how we respond as a council. Got a seconder with Councillor Milner. That's as far as I can get up to. Where are we up to?
So it might be just worthwhile just clarifying what the motion is. All this is a budget consultation. We've already submitted our proposals for devolution services, and we're having those. Well, we're not having the conversations, but we've got the basis for conversations. This is about fees and charges and increases, and that which is why Councillor Kerr's raised it. So. Yeah, could you just repeat it for us, please?
There were two elements of it. First of all, that we welcome any, because one of the things they set out is, would you support the following measures for the council to make savings? And one of those is that we devolve more services to parish councils. So we just say we welcome discussions about that bit in principle. And then the other thing is they're talking about increasing fees and charges. And in that, they talk about residents parking. And I think they mean to increase the current charges because they're not planning massive new schemes. So it's only going to make money if they increase the current charges. And I think we would need to protect our residents and saying you can't increase the current charges and leave the current enforcement at the level it is. I'm not sure we'd support the increase of charges, but you must put resources into enforcing it because at the moment it's not properly enforced.
Okay.
With the fees and charges, I glanced at this budget consultation. I think they also mentioned something about the bin charges. They might look at increasing those again. I don't know whether...
Yeah, there is. I don't know a strong view on that. People will give their view on that. I think they're talking about going from £56 to £60 as sort of an inflation, slightly above inflation increase. That won't come in, of course, because you don't pay it until October of next year. But, I mean, the only other way we could do this is ultimately it's impossible to get the clerk to do it because we'd all disagree on what we're saying. Those are two issues which I think really affects the town council, running the services, and because of residents' parking has been such a long-growing issue. And I personally think everybody else will have their own views and feed them in. There'll be other things that people will object to and not.
I think councillors, for ease of getting on to the next thing, I think we've got some ideas of a response. We're all individually perfectly able to give a response from our own point of view as well. So if people are happy, should we, and we've got a seconder anyway with that motion from Councillor Kerr, if we vote upon Councillor Kerr's motion in the first instance and go from there, if that's all right. So all those in favour of Councillor Kerr's response as a council, thank you. That's perfectly fine. Thank you very much. Okay, so yep, I would encourage you all individually to do a response as well. The more views, the better. But if Town Clerk's happy with that motion, and we will carry on. So we move on to item number 8, which is grants and donations. And for those of you that joined us at 6 o'clock this evening, we had a number of people that came to explain and discuss aspects of their grant donation requests. And as the Town Clerk has put in the minutes already, that details all the money that we've already spent as an organisation, with a remaining balance of £1,867.55 until the new budget comes in next year. So the first one that we looked at was the discussion with April Knock, previous Miss Galaxy, and supporter of Oswestry people. I know there was a couple of councillors in the room that were present at that point in time, and we'll open the floor for a quick discussion about certainly A. So that's April Knock. Councillors. Councillor Kerr.
Trying not to be awkward. Just a fear that if we go through them in just the order they are, we might run out of money halfway through and decide that some later on were more worthwhile. I wonder if we could look at them collectively. I know that's problematic, but I just do worry that we just end up, if we assess the first one and give the first one the second one, we'd probably run out of money already.
Well, I think Councillor Kerr, we're aware of how much we've got left anyway and how much people have individually requested.
But we weren't aware everybody else is aware, will we? So it's a stage of that is that we don't know what's ever else. Oh, right, I understand. I suppose if you did what I suggested, we could consider, because some people weren't aware earlier on, that we had advice that, for instance, on Keno Culture, they wish to have the projector back to them. By giving the projector back to them, we are giving significant value to them, and that might be sufficient aid. It might not be, but I think people need to know that information before they even consider the first one, because I might be holding the whole sum back to give it to Keno Culture. No, it's not Keno Culture, sorry, Mona Arts, not realising what has already been said about that. Equally on the toilets, we've sort of had advice earlier on that the compost toilets could come out of a different budget. So again, people need to be aware of that when we're actually deciding that grant, because we've got more money than would be suggested. That was my reason for suggesting
Councillor Kerr, might I suggest that we simply go through each one individually very quickly as a discussion rather than a decision? Is that okay? And then we're discussing each one individually. We know where we're up to. We've got an update from what we discussed earlier. And then at the end, let's plan how we spend, if we spend. Does that make sense to people? Okay, so the first one was April Knock, which is Appendix A in your pack. Councillors, do you want to have any discussions about this one in particular? Councillor Davis.
Yeah, I would support this one if the sponsoring table with the white ribbon.
So we're having a group discussion. Stephen, Councillor Froggatt's declared an interest.
We're not, are we talking about each individual one and then coming back to make a decision?
Yeah, and we haven't discussed the one that we haven't got a pecuniary interest in, so.
Shall I trade back into the order?
Not at this point in time, because this first one is the one that is pertinent to him, and the other one is pertinent for B.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so we've got the first one.
For the value of what they're asking for to sponsor the table, I think that'd be good for the council. We push the white ribbon, we deal with the market and all the rest of it. And I think with the group of people that they've got there going to this, I think that would be very positive for the council, for the value for the money.
Agreed. I think from a very public point of view of showing public support for the white ribbon and further information around it, absolutely agree. I think it's a really good cause. How are you feeling, Mr Mayor? Would you like to carry on?
Recovered. Yes, if that's all right.
Absolutely
But
fine.
thank you so
Problem
much
at all.
for. Unless you want to call me back in at the end of the item.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be. Right, but I have to go to the room and take it otherwise.
Yeah, otherwise you're the chair.
Okay. So Councillor Davis, thank you for your comments. I certainly would support this. Is there any other comments in the room from councillors, or are we happy to move on for discussion about the next one? Okay, so we're going to go on to B. So, Councillor Froggatt, if you do want to leave the room, you're very welcome to do so. And if you could invite Councillor Moore back in.
Oh, I get exercise in these meetings.
Okay, so Councillor Moore, just for clarification, what we've decided to do is discuss each one, but not make a decision at this point in time initially. We will discuss each one, and then at the end we'll discuss whether and how we spend any money if we decide to do so. Okay, so we've done A, and we're now moving on to B, which is the request for monies to provide a compost toilet at Oswestry Gattaca allotment. In terms of providing facilities for a large group of people who are currently supporting themselves and a green space in the heart of Oswestry. Councillors, have you got any questions, clarity, anything you want to discuss? Councillor Moore.
It's an opportunity possibly for what was discussed earlier, perhaps for you to move that from the chair, the suggestion of where the budget could potentially come from, that the town council could look at doing it from our own budget and us owning the toilet and taking care of it, so that we're in a position where we're providing the services to help the folks on the allotment rather than taking it from the grants budget.
Agreed. Yep.
Second that.
Yep. Perfect. As long as you don't need any further information.
Move that as a resolution.
I just wanted to clarify whether we can bring back which budget we're using it from in case there isn't enough. Would it just come out of reserves, or are we?
So there's a repairs and maintenance budget. Well, there's a line in the budget against Gattaca allotments, and there is, subject to getting, finalising the quote, and there is budget available.
It's just a matter of, do we make the decision later if it is over the budget that we have remaining due to maintenance?
Members would be happy to.
No, I know. I'm just making sure that we make the decision that we're delegating an overspend to the clerk rather than bringing anything back on us.
Until I know whether the quote includes VAT, then it is close. But I think there's sufficient money in the budget this year to buy from other funds if need be.
So, for clarity, councillors, we are suggesting that rather than using the Grants and Donations Fund, that we use alternative budgetary aspects for this one. So when you're coming to think about at the end how we spend our money, there is potential of not having to use our Grants and Donations Fund. Okay. So we will then move on to item C to discuss. Town Clerk will, at this point in time, leave the room. Okie dokie. Thank you, Steve. So we move on to discuss the grant application for Oswestry Society of Church Bell Ringers, which is Appendix C in your pack, councillors. And we had a discussion from the gentleman within the organisation, Councillor Owen.
I would generally support that we do give the full funding for this one. Like, I do have some personal experience through bell ringing through my parents. Like, it's a very good experience. You do get socialisation aspects of it, and it's good exercise as well. So it does offer something else that we could potentially offer through our youth services, etc. So I think it should be something that we're openly seen to support. And I think giving them 500 towards something they've already pretty much raised themselves is a small amount in comparison.
Okay, Councillor Davis.
Yeah, I'd like to support it as well, and I don't want to steal Councillor Moore's saying, but when he mentioned the children, and if they could get involved, I'm sure someone would like that. I mean, not only is it good, the time and everything, but it's also a physical fitness thing as well. So I think it's got a lot of benefits, so I think we should support it.
Agreed. Councillor Moore.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I'm in support of this as well, which is to be honest, when the application came in at first, I wasn't very convinced about it. I know that a lot of churches generally have quite a lot of money, and after looking into it, I now know that the Bell Ringing Society have their own funds and aren't linked to that, and it seems like they're doing an awful lot of their own fundraising. I really like how proactive they are and how well they're engaging with the community. So yeah, definitely.
Agreed, councillors. And I think one of the aspects that you talked about at the end, which suggests a kind of training aspect of being able to support other neighbouring towns and villages, certainly villages anyway, in terms of some training. I think there is not a bad reason for this at all. So, we will move on then to item D, once Town Clerk returns. So we move then on to application D, Appendix D, from Mona Art. Some of you were here last time when the gentleman concerned came to discuss his concepts for Keener culture, and he's come back again. So I've got Councillor Kerr, then Councillor Moore.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we want to support any cinema in the town, and we really lost Kino Culture when it closed. However, 11,000 for the full year for the rent payable does seem a bit of a risk to the town council. I don't know whether he's going to pay all that money up front. Quite unlikely he's going to pay that money over monthly, and therefore, as most practically all the money, because of the rent-free periods, will effectively fall into next year. I think we could urge an application into next year when we will have more finances available to us to consider the application as well. In the meantime, I certainly would suggest that now we've established that the projector is our equipment, we loan it back to them. There's never an intention to not have it used. It was the intention that, I suppose to be perfectly honest, that it was public, a facility owned by the public and shouldn't be used or sold or transferred by anybody else, but we can make that decision. And that's what probably I'm thinking. I mean, realistically, the money in the budget would mean that we couldn't really offer anything more than token help this year. And rather than give a token amount this year, I think it would be better to give them the projector this year and ask for an application for next year when we can consider it then. And by hopefully then, he will have established it as a viable business, because the other aspect of this is I don't think Mayona Art have actually run any cinemas. That's my understanding. I may have got that wrong, but that's my understanding. So they've not come with a sort of track record of doing this anywhere. And just, I suppose, we're all conscious how hard Ruth and Ian had to work to make it happen, and it's a tough business.
Yeah, and I think the thing I picked up from the discussion earlier was that there would be a financial benefit to him to having that projector back, in terms of what he's able to provide as a service to people and as a film option, offering a Keener culture. So, if nothing else, having that projector is certainly a benefit to them. Councillor Moore.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with what both of you have said. I think that the offer of a projector is a very viable and useful thing that we can do as a town council. I did, rightly or wrongly, I didn't feel like his business was quite as developed as maybe it needs to be in order to really feel comfortable with that amount of money. I feel like they're moving towards some very positive things. They're just not there yet. And I think there may be, at this point, I wouldn't support a financial a grant towards them, but certainly the use of the projector, I feel like that they're very, very expensive pieces of equipment, so I feel like that's incredibly useful of us anyway. But yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable. And the other comment he made when I was asking about whether or not they would have provisions for young people, whether it be concessions, free sessions for people to come along to, how does it benefit locally? He did end up talking about how he felt that the building was unsafe for young people to be in there. So that's something that I feel like we should probably be looking at tackling those before looking at paying on further rent. What he meant by that, I don't know, but without those answers, it's certainly another reason I'm not very comfortable.
Councillors, if you're happy to move on to the last two. So we go on to Appendix E, which is the request from St Martin's Village Hall. We didn't actually have them present for the 6 o'clock or pre-meet anyway. Councillors Coburn and Moore and...
Yeah, well, I imagine we'll probably say the same thing, but yes, I think it's a sizable amount of money. It may well be worth it, but we shouldn't be putting that amount of money in if they're not able to come here and make their case.
Councillor Coburn's correct. That is what I was going to say. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I second that.
Okay. Councillor Owen.
I was just going to question about, they have come to us. Have they had any conversations with you about the grant outside of just applying for it from us, or?
Not, they haven't been in touch, just submitted an application form, and that was it.
Okay. Councillors, just for the last one for discussion, is the Shrewsbury and Oswestry Crucial Crew, and they made their case very well earlier in terms of the reason for moving to the Flax Mill in Shrewsbury, despite the different location. That was what was available, and the offering certainly is extensive and incredibly beneficial to our Year 6 primary schools in Shropshire, let alone Oswestry. Councillor Davis.
Yeah, I'd like to support this. I was involved with it when I worked for Scottish Power. It is a good thing for the children. They do learn a lot from all the different electric, gas, water, flooding, fire, etc., etc. Life skills. And what they're asking for, I think, £1 a child for the Oswestry area. I don't think we can refuse that one.
No, agreed. Councillor Moore.
Yeah, I'd agree with Councillor Davis. Something to support here. I think this isn't a club. This is youth work. This is something that's, as Councillor Davis rightly said, is providing life skills and offering an awful lot of these things, especially that transition from primary into secondary school. Very formative times. So having the Crucial Crew in position supporting this is fantastic. So yeah, highly supported.
Again, I support it, and they also teach young adults to be more aware of the internet and what to look out for on social media. So for that, I would support this. They do a lot of work, and they give up their time for nothing. So.
Yeah, indeed. And I think that the setup in terms of less impact on schools around time is really important as well. When you're combining all the efforts into one area, rather than having to have multiple people coming into multiple schools and multiple time taken away from lessons, I think it's a really positive aspect. So we therefore have A through till F to discuss, and as both councillors Moore and Kerr pointed out earlier, we did come up with a discussion around aspect B. So at this point in time, Councillor Froggatt, do you want to leave the room in terms of your...
I don't think we didn't vote on it, I don't think. So I think it might be worthwhile just... So shall we go through them one by one, Councillor?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, we have. 1360.
So if we start off, Councillor Moore, do you want to... So we're going to make a decision on April Knox. Do you want to sort of hover? So we need a proposal.
Okay, I'll propose from the chair that we support the £360 that they're requesting. I think Councillor Davis was the first one to point at me, so that's seconded from Councillor Davis. Councillors, we're making a decision on April Knock and the £360. All those in favour, please.
So just in terms of the T's and C's on that one, we'll obviously only pay the money across when there's confirmation that the event is happening. The money will go directly to the organisers as opposed to the individual as well. So just in terms of additional safeguards, and we'll need to make sure that the Town Council's contribution is appropriately recognised on the evening.
Perfect, thank you. Councillor, should we do a swap? Councillor Froggett? Councillor Froggett?
It's the old trouble.
It's like the hokey cokey. Okay, we move on to Appendix B then. So we talked about Oswestry Gattaca allotment and the request for monies towards a compost toilet, but further to discussion we suggested that actually the monies could be sought from other parts of our budget. Is that correct, Howard Clark? Yeah. Fabulous. Does anybody want to... Councillor
Owen?
Owen, thank you.
I would like to propose that we do look at the other budget, from specifically the maintenance budget for the gas allotments. I would like to allocate £200 of the grants donation to cover any overspend, to make sure we do have that leeway. I know it will be small, but it will just make sure that we're specifying where that money's coming from in advance, and any remaining amount can go back into the...
I think that's it's an accounting issue. I think, you know, in principle, that's fine, because there's enough money in there. It's not necessary to. I don't think it's necessary to do that, but I understand why you want to see that. Yeah.
Only concern is we lose £200 in the grants, and we've still got another 4 months of the year to run, and we may get more grant applications for very small amounts of money. So I'd rather not lose that. We've had the clerk say we can manage it in that budget. There's a small overspend on that budget. We can take it from reserves. Happy to move that if that budget isn't sufficient, it's taken from reserves. But I don't want to lose our grants budget, having decided that this shouldn't be met from the grants budget. It shouldn't be met from the grants budget.
Okay.
I think just from a practical point of view, I don't think there will be any more grant rounds at this time, because there'll be a new council in May, so you've only got 3 more meetings. So you won't be considering any more grants.
Councillors, are you willing to put a motion forward?
I was doing proposal.
Okay, have you got a seconder? Okay, so Councillor Moore's seconding. So we've got a proposal that we put £200 from the grants and donations, and the remaining from buildings and maintenance.
I think it's the other way around, that if we need the money from the grants and donations, we take it out, isn't it? Yeah. So the majority of the money will be found from the Gattaca allotments. However, if it's not sufficient, then the remainder gets taken from the grants and donations budget. Up to a maximum of £200.
Okay, so we've got a proposal, we've got a seconder. Councillors, all those in favour? Thank you, councillors.
Any against?
Any against? Didn't look like there was. No.
Which one are you going for, Josh?
Okie dokie. Swap around. Apologies, councillor, this is taking longer than it possibly needs to. Okay, we move on to discuss Appendix C, the Oswestry Society of Church Bell Ringers. I think we've had plenty of discussion about this one. Do we have a proposer and a seconder? We've got two, Councillor Milner. You propose the full amount?
Yes.
Seconder from Councillor Davis. Unless we've got any other further discussions about it, councillors, all those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Okay, councillors, we move on to Appendix D, which is Mona Art. Do councillors want to discuss this any further, or suggest any motions, given that the discussion in the room suggested they didn't want to go with the request fully?
Happy to move that we give the projector, we loan the projector, I suppose would be the technical term, to Mona Arts, and we explain to Mona Arts that we are at the stage in our budgetary cycle where we haven't got any money left in our grants pot, but we invite them to make an application in the new financial year to the new council.
Yeah, and I think the town clerk mentioned a rental agreement earlier in terms of governance, so that would certainly help. Councillor Milner.
I'd just say I'd be very happy to second that. I think we'll have a better understanding as well after 12 months.
Yeah, unless there's any further discussions around the room. Councillors, all those in favour? Unanimous.
So just in terms of feedback to tender, is to say that you are supportive of the establishment of the cinema in there, but you're a little bit nervous in terms of granting financial support so early on in the business's existence, and want to see it established before considering future applications. So just that's what I heard.
Are councillors comfortable with that? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We move on to Appendix E, which is the request from St Martin's Village Hall Centre. Councillors, have anybody got any discussions, any comments, any motions? Councillor Owen.
Can I propose that we don't accept the grant application for any of it? I would be interested for them to at least respond to explain their rationale between approaching our grants application, just if they do have any other sources of income, or whether we are a sort of last resort. If they are a neighbouring parish, it would be within our thing to at least discuss it if needed.
Yeah, and I think there's an aspect of them making it clear how their proposal actually benefits Oswestry residents. They are very close, but it is about Oswestry residents and how it benefits us as well. So I think that's possibly missing. Councillors, there's the suggestion that we deny the application. I propose that we, James is proposing that we deny it. I'm happy to second that. Councillors, all those in favour? Unanimous, thank you very much. And the last, but by no means least, is Shrewsbury and Oswestry Crucial Crew. Again, a highly beneficial concept for our Year 6 primary school children and beyond. Any comments, any proposals? Councillor Milner.
I propose that we allocate them the full amount and wish them all the best for the upcoming sessions.
Okay, we've got Councillor Coburn and then Councillor... Brilliant. Okay, so we've got seconder. Councillor Owen, you all right? Okay, brilliant. Councillors, all those in favour? Thank you very much. You don't have to listen to my voice anymore.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I've warmed the seat for you.
Thank you very much. I really thought you were joking about the arsenic in the tea, but look at that. It's cost me £1 sitting out there. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Radford, for helping me out there, and apologies for the interruption. I take it we're on item 9A. Notice of motion in the name of Councillor J. Moore. So I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nice to see you back. Just a brief summary of the motion. After speaking with the clerk, it was also made aware that the memorial gates are in need of some remedial works as well. So that was then later included in the motion because it would be a timely opportunity to undertake those as well. As you can probably gather from the motion, the 80th anniversary of V-Day is coming up. I feel that the Smithfield reserves have been used towards obviously benefiting our shops. They've been used towards benefiting our youth with our centre and many other things in there. But I feel like one of the things that we've perhaps just missed a little bit so far is using the Smithfield to benefit our veterans. It was when we were all stood at the park gates for the service is when I was thinking that the park gates looked a little tired and not as grand as they should be for such an occasion. So I started to think about the idea of this archway that could potentially go across the top, straddling the two pillars, as I've seen at other memorial gates, which I always thought looked quite striking. It's not necessarily that that design is exactly the one that we're going. It's more of a suggestion that this arch that straddles the two could be one that we brought forward. But I also thought that maybe we're not the people to make that decision ourselves without bringing in some of the people who know about that stuff far better than we do, which is the veterans themselves. So I've made some suggestions on obviously bringing in the Royal British Legion, Major Hibbert, and anybody else who could possibly feed into that process to help streamline it and make it the most appropriate memorial that it could be. So I'm hoping that councillors can see the validity in this, and yeah, that's why I wanted to bring it forward. So yeah, I'll leave it to the floor.
Thank you very much. It's certainly a really nice idea. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Radford, thank you. And Councillor Kerr, you indicate to speak?
Yeah, I can understand the simple sentiments behind the motion, but unfortunately life is never as simple as it could be. The last time we ever made any changes to the War Memorial, I think the only time there were changes made to the War Memorial, it took 5 years. The reason, and that was to change the names on the plaques, if you recall. You were probably on the council at the time. The reason it took 5 years, the reason these things are incredibly complicated, is that the gates and the memorial is listed. Listing is not a sort of, I know it's easy to think of listing as just a sort of bit of red tape we can get round, but it isn't. It's listed because it is deemed to have significant architectural merit, not by the likes of you and me, but by the likes of people who are actually experts in this field. And having listed it, the purpose of the law and the purpose of all of us is to conserve it, not to improve it, not to make it better, not to finish it off, not to add to it, but to conserve it as it was originally built. Now that can mean doing works. We're doing works to Lewis Mansions, but that's works to go back to what was originally built and take out some of the poor staircases, in that case, that have been put in since. Our role is to respect the decisions made by the people of Oswestry. It was 100 years ago, wasn't it? It was 1920 it was built. They decided that this was the most appropriate form of memorial for their sons, brothers and fathers they had lost. It's irrelevant what the fashion of our age thinks. If you just imagine what would have happened if every age since 1920 had reworked the memorials in accordance with the mood of the times, their own concept of what was a fitting memorial. I imagine what the 60s would have done to it. Imagine what the 80s would have done to it. And it's exactly that reason why we don't have that on listed buildings. We have a legal framework which says the perfect building is the building that was built. Anything you do to it, it doesn't matter if everybody agrees with it or not, anything you do to it harms that building. You can only get permission, planning permission, for that harm if you can demonstrate that you are mitigating because either the building might fall over or something like that in towards the building. Aesthetic considerations that this would look nicer aren't entertained. That isn't their role. I mean, I remember I lived at Newark once, and in Newark there was a solid concrete building listed. It was the first solid concrete building in the world, as it happened. It was bloody ugly. I don't think anybody thought it looked beautiful. You couldn't touch it. You certainly couldn't make it look any more beautiful because it was listed because of its architectural merit. So I'm afraid there is just simply no point us discussing an application if all we've got to go on is an aesthetic consideration that this would look nicer. If you do want to do an application, you would have to use contemporary material which would fit the building, fit the structure, which in this case is Portland stone. Portland stone is incredibly expensive, and Portland stone of that size, and you'd have to match it with that seam, would be very complex because of the weight and the weight on the existing structure and the need for structural engineers to look at the foundations for the existing structure. And I just think it would be a huge project. I mean, the group who are proposing this were writing a month ago about complaining about what they say, more and more projects, headline projects with little consideration on the experience of the overstretched team of officers who are trying to achieve the ever-growing aspirations of a few certain councillors. So at one stage this group is saying we're doing far too much, and then they're coming forward with a project which is massively complicated, hugely long scale, and saying we could do it by May. 4 months' time. Well, this clearly cannot be done. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to decry the sentiments. I understand it comes from a good place, but it's just not real-world thinking. So I'm moving an amendment, and my amendment is that the council moves that Councillor Moore, along with any representatives of veteran organisations who are concerned about the memorial, are advised to approach English Heritage, the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, the War Memorials Trust, the Civic Society and the Conservation Team at Shropshire Council to understand the limitations and implications of the listed status of the War Memorial on any proposals they might have. And when you've gone to those organisations and you'll be able to ascertain what the issues are in the listing, then you by all means bring it back to this council. But until then, it is a waste of time. It is futile for us to have any further consideration of it. So that's my amendment.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the amendment?
Is the amendment accepted by Councillor?
Sorry, is the amendment accepted by Councillor Moore?
No, I appreciate Councillor Kerr's concern. I think it is grounded in reality, and this is a conversation I've had with the clerk as well. That the idea of actually having this completed to be unveiled in that time frame isn't realistic. But being able to unveil a future design at that time, initial concept arts, things like that in line with it, is something that could be possible. And as far as actually the actual gates themselves. Obviously, again, this very early discussions, why I wanted to bring, the RBL and Major Hibbert and people forward to have these discussions in more detail, was because I don't want it to be about what I think looks nice or to be about but to look at what's appropriate, what's been done elsewhere. As far as the actual stone itself, I appreciate, yes, the stone is expensive, the work is expensive, but the gates as they are do need remedial work doing to them, which is going to encompass the stone. That is going to be an expensive process. Again, I can't just fly down there with my trowel and a bucket of mud and just start throwing it up on the walls. It's got to be done by experts. That's going to be very, very expensive. But that has to be done. We have to preserve them. Same as we did for Clewood Mansion. That's a view that the council's had in many projects, that protecting the heritage of the town is incredibly important. And the other idea is obviously as well that any amendments could be put around. It's possible the RBL might say, well, maybe not on the gate, but maybe to the side of the gate or behind it. So having that discussion and bringing those people together is really important in the first instance, and not us deciding here what can and can't be done without us knowing what the actual way forward is. And we won't know that until we bring the right people in. I think the comments that you referred to about, I think that was made by one councillor, not made by the group. I didn't make any comments about any of the things that you alluded to there. So I think it's important to sort of separate sort of party political stuff to what people are doing. I don't think it's really relevant for a war memorial stuff to bring party politics into it. So I'd like to keep those really separate. But yeah, that's my thought, that we need to push this forward with the right people, and to cut that off now just because it's difficult wouldn't be doing that justice, I don't think. So no, I'm gonna stick with where I am.
Okay. But part of what you were saying there is that you do intend to work with certain groups. So could you not, add to that in the way that Councillor Kerr has suggested? Because you've said you as part of your proposal you will be consulting veterans groups and the RBL. Could you also add to that some of the groups that Councillor Kerr was suggesting?
Yeah, of course. And that's, sorry, I think so. My proposal is to work with those groups, not specifically, sorry, limited to just the handful that I named. Those organisations, I'm assuming, and hoping will also come forward and say, also we need to bring these people in and those people, and that would start the networking process. So there's in no way limiting who can be involved. I don't know who would want to be involved, where the experts lie in all of these fields, and I think that opening that conversation at the start is a great place to be. So absolutely, as far as bringing in the groups that Councillor Kerr mentioned, for sure. But I don't think that it's futile and a waste of time. I don't think it's a waste of officers' time to be trying to protect our war memorial and looking to do something for our veterans at all. I think that's but yeah, I don't think it's futile at all.
Yeah, of course, Councillor.
Being accused of saying something I didn't say. I didn't say it was a waste of time to talk about this issue whatsoever. I said it's a waste of time to engage the public in a discussion until you've understood the limitations that the listed status has on the structure. My motion was to go and speak to the conservation team, Go and speak to the War Memorials people. Go and speak to the Civic Society. Understand that the law sets certain parameters and will rule out certain issues. Understand that, and then by all means speak to wider people. But you'll cause a lot of anxiety and a lot of distress and a lot of wasted time if you start a very wide discussion when some of the ideas that come forward will not reach the very high bar of the planning application for listed building consent. So it's about what you do first. It's not saying you don't do this, do that. It's saying first you have to understand what you're likely to get listed building consent for.
Okay.
And what that implies. And that was my intention of my motion.
But you're not accepting the amendment as put? Just to be clear.
No, I think, yeah, now Kaz explain that a little further. I understand where you're coming from, absolutely. Yeah, I'd accept that in there, because I think, again, it's such early discussions that I don't know what the shape is. Like I said right at the start, the arch was just solely an idea to just give a little visualization as to something, and it might not be that it's an arch, it might be something completely different, but those discussions need to happen. And if Councillor Kerr is correct in what he's saying, that there's no way we'll be able to do anything other than the remedial works to specifically the pillars. Perhaps the veterans themselves don't want any works done other to the pillars specifically, other than what's there. Those are all discussions that we're then open to have, isn't it? So yeah, if that's to your amendment, then absolutely, then I'd accept that.
So amendment accepted to speak to conservation teams, as you've listed, as a first part. So I've got Councillor Rose and then Councillor Coburn.
Yeah, it's just what worries me about the motion is that it's obviously some discussions gone on about doing this with various veterans, and we've got utmost respect for veterans, and indeed everyone serving the armed forces now. So we've got a lot of respect in that way, and I feel this type of motion could sort of raise aspirations when, had we looked at the conservation status before bringing it, realise that it's unlikely that you'd be able to do very much at all. So I think that's the thing, sort of, you can get a group together to talk about it, but before you can even put an application in, it's a bit like when you've got a house, you don't sort of put one in saying, oh, I'm going to just build an extension, I'm not telling you what size it is or anything like that. You've got to put the actual thing in that you want to do, and then they'll look at it and say yes or no. And obviously they can give guidance, although they're a bit stretched at the moment. It takes absolutely months. So this is a very long-term project, I think.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Coburn.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify something about the amendment in that I think when Councillor Coburn was proposing the original amendment, he was saying that Councillor Moore specifically needed to go and speak to these institutions and then come back to us. And when Councillor Moore was accepting it, I felt he was saying that he would do that in conjunction with the town council and officers. And I just wanted to be clear whether the amendment commits officers to being part of this sort of discussion process, or whether Councillor Moore and potentially other individual councillors might be part of it, and then they would come back to the council with a suggestion. And I just wasn't clear from the discussion which of those two has been agreed.
Okay. What was the original intention of the amendment?
Councillor Moore, but I'm not precious. I don't mind other councillors being involved. Don't really mind the clerk being involved, but I'm a bit worried about the workload, but it's not been a lot of meetings. But the motion did say Councillor Moore, only because it was your project and I didn't want to steal your thunder by giving it to somebody else. And you've obviously got the contacts you've made, and I think it's those people who would really want to be involved. So the motion says Councillor Moore, but
if I'm sure that a way can be decided with the support of the clerk. Yeah. Is that okay?
If this is a project that if this is a project that council want to support in principle, during the consultation and that's preempting discussion. Are willing to wanting to investigate to start with, then yeah, it's right that I support that. I think I would add to the list, and one of the major issues is what are you asking the what are you asking the conservation officers to sign off? Because until you have an idea of what that might be, it's very difficult for them to give an opinion. They might be able to give you the limitations. Yeah. So I think it'd be useful to have an informal consultation with a potential artist to perhaps explore some options with no guarantees as well. But yeah.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Kerr, and then I'll come back to Councillor.
I'm sorry, I realise I've dealt with this process, and if you haven't dealt with it, you probably don't know how it works. A plan application is quite straightforward in the sense you do a plan, they look at the plan, they look at the policies, and they approve it or they not. An application for listed building consent is different because of this concept, as I tried to explain, of harm. So in their view, you're harming the structure. You do anything to that structure, you're harming it, because the perfect structure is the one that's already there. So it's the wording, the justification of why you're harming the structure. And that's the most important and the most difficult thing. And I'm sorry, aesthetics, because we think it will look... Now, I'm not being rude, but just trying to say aesthetics, even if everybody in the town agreed with you, just doesn't enter the room. It's not a criteria. And my reason for going to them is not to, give a clarification of this design is acceptable. They won't give you that. You won't get anything like that, I'm afraid. But to give you parameters about these are the issues of harm, which are most important to us. But I think, I think an earlier discussion would just rule out, you can build this anywhere else, but we'll just rule out touching a listed structure on the grounds of aesthetics. Now, the clerk did mention that the gates, which I wasn't aware of, do need work, and we can have a discussion about that, but that would be how do we restore the gates to how they were before. It won't make any changes. It would just be the gates, if they're starting to corrode, need work, that needs to be done to listed building consent. But the reason for looking at that will be, well, what was originally built, how do we put it back to what was originally built? It won't be any improvements in terms of changing.
Come back to Councillor Moore.
Thank you. Yes, so I think Councillor Kerr's kind of preempted a little bit what I was thinking there, so possibly he's thinking along the same lines, that it might be sensible to break this motion into two parts. So the first being to look immediately at the remedial works that need doing to the gates to bring them back up into condition, because that's going to be a long process in itself, and if those need doing, then we do need to look at that immediately, don't we? And then the second part of the motion to look at bringing together the group for the informal conversations about what people feel would be appropriate, whether that be specifically to the gates or separate to the gates or anything like that. Start having those original, this motion really is about starting that discussion rather than me deciding this is specifically what we need to do. So I think maybe by separating those, so have that first one be the remedial works, and then the second half of it being the bringing that group together to start those discussions and bring those findings back to council.
Find out what's possible.
Find out what's possible and what would like to be done from the options that are possible. So perhaps the forming of a working group with councillors and with these outside veterans entities like RBL and such would be a sensible starting point that we can move forward from. So if that needs an amendment to the amendment to get there, I'm not sure which process you wish to, which hoop you want me to jump through.
I think in terms of the repairs and renovations, I think that's a repairs and maintenance issue which we need to deal with as part of our work programme, as we would do with anything else. I think the issue about future work is right, keeping it separate. But I think that's the bit that's probably going to take you the most time and work and getting together for repairing the gates. It's consulting an expert, getting an idea of the quotes, and coming back to you asking for approval, having had listed building consent, are relatively straightforward. I think the difficult part, if you want to call it that, is the consulting and engaging with groups. And I think.
Point of order, because I thought I'd made an amendment. I thought the amendment had been accepted, and now the person who accepted it says that they wants to make another amendment. I don't think you can amend your own motion. You can withdraw your own motion, but then I'll move that my amendment becomes a motion.
Right.
Just, where are we procedurally? I've made an amendment. The amendment's been accepted. I expect that to proceed to a vote. I don't think the move of the motion can then withdraw the motion without me being able to move my amendment as the motion.
Yeah. So,
I think we're having a discussion whether two councillors, council procedure. Yeah, there's a motion gone forward. There's an amendment which has been accepted. So really, that becomes the well, it hasn't become a substantive vote because you need to vote on it. If that becomes a substantive vote motion, then you can move an amendment.
did accept, yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it is the substantive motion. And I think it's really, you know, it's really valuable that you've brought this forward, especially about the remedial work that does need doing, I think. And, you know, I think it's a really good idea to look at any enhancements that can be made to the gate, because I understand about listed building and you know, honouring the original concept, but there's also, you know, the here and now, and that people might want something, and if it was slightly separate to the gates or whatever. So I think there is, you know, a really valuable process that can be gone through to see what veterans want now and what might be deemed appropriate. So that was what I was hoping I thought that was the point we'd sort of got to, that we would start the discussions, finding out what's possible first by speaking to the relevant authorities, as it were, in terms of conservation, but with a view to, once we understand what's possible, potentially moving forward with a proposal.
My amendment does
Yeah,
just that.
that-
It says
that-
go and
that's how
speak
I
to
understood it.
conservation because you're talking about affecting a listed building. If you take that out from your motion and say we're going to build something somewhere else on the park or somewhere, then I don't need to make my amendment. But it's because in the motion you've identified a listed structure and said you want to do changes to it. And I've said there's no point there's no point us discussing that until you've talked to conservation and the War Memorials Trust and the Civic Society to understand the legislation around listed structures, the protection that is there, and to see whether your justification for that harm, which is aesthetics, would hold muster. And I don't believe it will, but you'll find out from
Yeah,
it. And then you can come back to us with another say.
Yes, because if that discussion did lead somewhere, then, yeah, it could turn into a really good project. Yeah. So, Councillor Coburn.
And I don't think we need to separate it. Nothing in the amended motion precludes us doing work that is needed on the gates as part of our normal maintenance of work. So we can just go on and decide on the amended motion as accepted.
Yeah, because and that's, you know, a really good thing that's come out of this, is that, you know, that does, I think there is something that needs addressing there. Okay, so does anyone else wish to speak? In that case, I'll move to the vote on the motion as amended. All in favour? Yeah, thank you. Or any against? And any abstentions? One abstention. Thank you. Okay. Item 9B then is notice of motion in the name of James Councillor Owen.
Yes, so I'm not going to read all through it. There's too many stats and my brain already hurts. So it's basically, we all know that the budget has lowered the threshold for national insurance contributions down to 5,000, which for every employee earning over 9,000 will cost 615 extra. I don't know the exact number of employees that the council has, but that is reasonable compared to increasing precept exam, etc., of an increase on top of what we would have expected 2 months ago, for example. There are rumours that principal councils, for example Shropshire Council, would be getting some compensation for that difference, so that in whatever form it would come in. And I feel like it is an oversight of the government that town councils, which are much more reliant on direct taxpayers' income, to suddenly have a massive bill put onto them. And therefore my motion simply asks for the clerk and the council to just write to the government to lobby that the parish councils are also considered for compensation in that increase so that the bill isn't passed on to the residents of our town due to a governmental policy.
Okay, thank you very much. Does the motion have a seconder? Councillor Froggatt, thank you very much. Do you wish to speak now, or I've got Councillor Coburn waiting? Councillor Coburn.
Yeah, completely supportive of the thrust of the motion. My only concern is that it says, A, that Shropshire Council and principal councils will be compensated for revenue lost when we're not 100% clear that they will, and that at the end of the motion it says that the formula be changed so that we receive the same compensation as principal councils. And I don't think that can be done given what we know about the formula. I think it would be better if instead of talking about the formula, it simply said to demand that town and parish councils receive compensation for financial losses, rather than referring to a formula that may not compensate principal councils as well.
Okay, thank you. Are you proposing an amendment, Councillor? Okay. Is the amendment accepted?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, thank you. Councillor Kerr?
I was going to make the same point. There are 10,000 councils, so the idea. So let me just get a few things straight. The government gives some money to principal councils. That's county councils, district councils, and unity councils. That's actually going down and collecting increasingly. They're reliant on council tax. The reason they get money is because they have statutory responsibilities. They have to do things. Parish councils have no responsibilities whatsoever. In fact, in theory, we could wind up Oswestry Town Council and go home and do something else. There are no statutory responsibilities we have. So when the government makes laws and says the councils will enforce them, the councils have no choice but to enforce them. There isn't any easy regime for funding parish councils this amount of money. If you imagine 10,000 claims going in, each of which would have to be verified and checked by auditors in the government office, and then probably auditors as well, it's a ludicrous process, and that would have to happen every year. This isn't a one-off process. We're not asked for money for 1 year. This is a permanent change. It's not the first change to employers' NI insurance. It used to be 10%, actually. It went up to 13.8%. Mention which parties put it up, but it's gone up in the past and we didn't make the same claim then. I would add to the amendment, or maybe make a further amendment, that I don't disagree with writing to the government about the pain caused and the problems caused by increase in NI, but we're here to represent the people of Oswestry. We at least have a choice. We can cut our services or we can increase the tax. Neither very nice, but we can do either of those things. There are small and medium businesses on which Oswestry relies who possibly don't have that choice because their customers can't bear an increase in costs. And if they cut their costs, some of them may be going out of business. So I think it's the impact on employment, the tax on employment that I really worry about. And I think we as a parish council should be telling the government about that. As I said, particularly in Oswestry, the only justification was this, is that nationally there's some very, very large companies, the Amazons and the very big organisations, who don't pay enough tax for the health service and everything else. And I get that. And this is one way of getting, an easy way of getting money out of them. But it also hits all the medium-sized organisations and the small organisations for whom it is a real tax on employment and will lead inevitably, and it's been shown by the Office of Budget Responsibilities, as a tax on jobs. So I would urge that the motion includes that. By all means, write and protest about the impact on parish councils, but I do think we need to be careful. We are very, very short of money in the country at the moment, and statutory services are under real pressure. So at the end of the day, parish councils don't have to do anything. It's we have to recognise that. We're not required by government to do anything. So the government could well say, why should we compensate Oswestry Town Council for doing something when a similar sized town elsewhere in the country doesn't even have a parish council? That's their choice.
So your amendment specifically is?
Well, specifically, I would say that we need to draw the government's attention to the impact on small and medium employers on which the economy of Oswestry is over-reliant, that is caused by the increase in employers' NI insurance.
Okay. Is that amendment accepted? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, just in case I'm misunderstanding, which is entirely possible. But in the last item, didn't we have a motion amendment accepted? And then when a second amendment was then proposed, that it couldn't be. Didn't Councillor Coburn suggest an amendment which was then accepted by Councillor Owen, and now Councillor Kerr's asking to add another amendment to the amendment? Aren't we in the same situation as we were previously?
The previous...
Maybe I've lost it, but I'm just for consistency's sake. I'm not. I don't mind you doing it. I think for me it's about keeping things consistent. That's all. So
We are getting very bound in procedures, and I think we all need to perhaps refamiliarise ourselves with them. My understanding, well, is for the Mayor to adjudicate, is that the amendments in the previous one, you moved an amendment on your own motion.
It seemed to change the sort of original motion, if you see what I mean.
You accepted my amendment and
And
then
then-
amended your own motion, and I said, if you're going to do that, then I must run my amended motion.
But-
This is different. We've had the motion accepted. We've now 4 or 5 amendments.
Hang on. Yeah. You see? Yeah. Okay. So, yeah.
I'm not massively 100% certain on it either, I have to be honest.
But the way I understand it, this is a clear second amendment to Councillor Owen's motion from a third party councillor, as it were. Do you accept Councillor Kerr's amendment?
I'm not against the wording of the motion. I completely agree that it does also impact small and medium businesses. For the sake of the motion and us as a town council, this is a direct impact on us.
Yeah.
And that's what we're asking about. And the right letter that I've asked for is to the local government minister. They don't have anything to do with small and medium businesses. We'd basically be changing the entire motion to, or talking to the wrong minister about, we should just message the Chancellor. I feel, for the sake of this motion, if we just highlight that as a town council, we don't have to do everything, but given the pressures on the Shropshire Council, we might be looking at taking on more. There's already budget pressures on us to provide non-statutory services, and coming up with a solution that we shouldn't ask the government for some assistance to allow us to do that, for the sake of the fact that we don't have to, is, in my eyes, wrong. So I don't want to accept the motion.
Thank you. Then we vote on Councillor Kerr's amendment first. Then has it got a seconder? Sorry. Councillor Davis, would you wish to speak? Thank you. Do you wish to speak? In that case, I'll move to the vote on Councillor Kerr's amendment. Councillor Rose.
Can I just clarify that this is all, that everything James has said is still in the motion, that Josh has made a slight amendment to the taking out formula and that kind of thing, and that in addition, Duncan's, because we're on the general speak about national insurance, that we also highlight the problem and how concerned we are about local businesses.
Councillor Owen's motion,
yes,
as is, with Councillor Coburn's accepted amendment.
Yeah.
But we'd be voting on Councillor Kerr's amendment to then become part of the
yes, which would be in addition
added to it to become
what
the
he's saying,
substantive motion.
Yeah.
So, can I ask for all in favour of Councillor Kerr's amendment to become part of the substantive motion? All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? So two against and one abstention. Thank you. So that one, the amendment has passed to become part of the substantive motion. I'm not sure, Councillor Owen, are you wanting to speak again?
I feel like it's been amended. We're still writing to the Minister for Housing, Communities and Local Government now about a budgetary thing. Like, you didn't amend that. We're now writing to the wrong minister about a much wider issue. And for the sake of it, I'm withdrawing my motion.
I think we're in danger of getting into. I think there's general agreement. It's just.
It's been amended, so that has become the substantive motion. So as I understand it, I think Councillor Kerr's right in saying that it must still go to the vote now. Once it's been amended and that amendment's been accepted by Council. Can we, one moment, sorry, Councillor Kerr.
This issue about the one person, I mean, you invite both of them, but it is the housing communities and local government, and it's communities that we are concerned about. It's the impact on the community of Oswestry of the tax. And it may be that the Minister for Housing, Communities and Local Government can find some other way of compensating the business community in Oswestry as a result of this issue. So it's not necessarily an issue for the Treasury, it could be an issue for the Minister for Housing, Communities and Local Government. If it isn't, I'm sure they'll forward it on to the appropriate minister. I don't really think we have to worry too much about that. Had the vote, I suggest we go straight to the vote on the substantive motion.
Yeah. In that case, I agree. All in favour of the motion? Any against? The motion as written, with Councillor Coburn's amendment and Councillor Kerr's amendment. No, well, we've started the vote. It was all in favour. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Any against? 1. Any abstentions? 2. Thank you. Right, but this, I have to say that the amount of discussion over procedural matters is starting to take up a significant amount of time. There are motions being put in, and well, I don't know what to say really, but I've never quite known motions that need so much discussion in my time as a councillor. I don't know if the clerk has any advice on the situation or.
Yeah, I think as we're in the middle of the council meeting, it's probably not appropriate for me to say anything. It might be worth having a couple of minutes at the end of the meeting and understand where we're up to. There are decisions being made very difficult for us as officers to follow as well. And we're on item 10 on the agenda, and I don't think we've really had a proper discussion about anything meaningful yet either. An hour and a half into the meeting, so I think just advise councillors to focus on the important parts of our business and the decisions that you have to make. And there's some big chunky issues in there which we're not going to have a chance to debate.
But I just think that a lot of amendments are meant in a positive light, and that's not always apparent. Sometimes in the way they're proposed, and it's not always apparent in the way that they're accepted or not by original movers, and most amenders are trying to improve upon a motion, and I just think that sometimes we just need to have a bit more of a cooperative spirit, especially when quite often we're in agreement on the substance or the spirit of something, and it just seems to get completely lost in procedure. But yeah, perhaps more discussion in advance of meetings. You know, we can all email each other and say, I'm thinking of putting in a motion on X, Y, Z. I'd really appreciate everyone's support. I want to get it through with, you know, as little argument and disagreement as possible. What do you think? And just gather thoughts before meetings, and then we might be able to avoid some of these very long drawn out and sometimes sometimes a discussion that doesn't seem to be in the right spirit of working for the best. But anyway, those are my thoughts. Let's move on. Item 10, 20 miles per hour restrictions in Oswestry. To note, a letter of support from Helen Morgan MP for the implementation of 20 mile per hour restrictions in Oswestry.
Mr Mayor, just to add, I have had correspondence from Shropshire Council after us writing to them a while ago. Rather than have a discussion on the issue this evening, why don't I put that letter, both letters, on the agenda for January to enable councillors to have a proper discussion on an important local issue.
I would agree with that. Do we need to take a vote on deferring that?
If you propose it as a motion, I think it'll be all right.
I will propose that as a motion then. Seconded. All in favour? Thank you. Item 11, winter fuel payment. To note, letter Appendix H from the Department of Work and Pensions regarding the decision to restrict winter fuel payments and eligibility. So it's good to that we raised this, and we have had a response. But it's more for noting than anything else. Obviously, nothing has changed. It hasn't changed the government's stance, but we have raised it on behalf of our residents. Item 12, review of Shropshire banners, bunting and festive lighting policy and process. We've got an Appendix I, another letter, setting out proposed changes and requesting that Oswestry Town Council provide feedback in a survey as a final step of the review process, which will be taken into account. I think what they're wanting to do is pass the decision making down to a local level, aren't they, Aaron?
Yeah, I think that they want to do that, but the only way that they can do it is by the town council becoming the licence holder, and then the town council giving permission to other organisations, as opposed to the way it's done now, is that the other organisations become the licence holder. We value your opinion on whether this is whether we can add value to the process. There will be no local autonomy. But it will be based on a policy. There's a question about who is liable should something go wrong, and that isn't clarified in the documentation. I think it'd be a question that you should ask as a licence holder, because you'd be giving somebody else permission. And then there's a question about enforcement. So who's responsible for enforcement and prosecuting people if things go wrong? Again, that's missing from the consultation. I think you need to consider that alongside the decision, just the decision making.
Okay. So, as a way forward, would it be sensible to not engage in the consultation as is, but raise this and ask that the consultation be rerun with, these elements added?
I think you can highlight those concerns as part of the consultation if they are your concerns. But the first thing is there something you're interested in getting involved with? And if it's not, then that's part A. And then one of the reasons is because we're not sure who'd be liable and who would enforce it. It's only consultation. So I don't think we need to worry too much about it.
No. Any thoughts?
Is it something you want to get involved with or not? I'm not sensing that it is. No. Okay. That's the response, isn't it?
So. Yeah, so we respond in the negative that we would not like to consider at this point taking on the responsibility. All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Item 13, SALC's affiliation fees 25 for 2025-26. Just for noting. Thank you. All in favour? Grand. Item 14, the Cambrian Heritage Railway. There's a request from the station manager, Appendix J, that we write a letter of support for them in achieving the transfer of a model of Cambrian Railway steam locomotive, which is currently at the National Trust Museum in North Wales. Councillor Coburn.
I move we support it. It seems a reasonable request. It doesn't seem to be a particularly problematic one, and I think we should support it.
Thank you. Councillor Owen.
No. I'm happy to second that we do accept it. Like, the Cambrian Railway is a large part of Oswestry and its growth over the last 200 years. So this is basically a model that was made here, and it coming back will act as an attraction to the Heritage Railway.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so just to add to that, if security of tenure of Cambrian Heritage Railways is an issue for the National Trust, will the council be willing to host the model in the Guildhall if it was an issue? Because sometimes when people want to loan things, they want to know it's secure. So would you just be able to offer that as a backup to them?
I'd be happy. Councillor Milner? Yeah?
Yeah, if we could offer the backup, that might help them secure it.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Moore?
I was just going to ask, how big is it? I don't know how big I think how much space would it take out? Oh, it's a little thing. Okay, I'm fine, yeah. It's like, if it's a life size, they're going to come in here and say, I can't move, there's a train. You know?
Okay, all in favour? Thank you. Item 15, His Majesty's Lord Lieutenant's Shropshire Garden Party 2025. Inviting the council to nominate someone who has gone above and beyond in the town of Oswestry. We need to submit by the 31st of January 2025, so perhaps we can all think of someone and we can bring this item back in the meeting. No?
Do it now.
Do it now. Councillor Moore.
I'd like to propose that perhaps the mayor and the clerk or whoever's deemed appropriate, and perhaps choose some people shortlisted from the list of community champions that we've had over the last 3 years since I introduced it during my term. There were several during Councillor Rose's term as mayor, and I believe yourself, Mr. Mayor, have picked a couple as well. So perhaps those would be ideal candidates to put forward as they've been recognised already.
Okay, we can look at the community champion recipients over the last 2 or 3 years. Councillor Davis.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea. Maybe you could contact them initially if they were interested. Just pull a number out, and then you're not biased against anybody in particular.
Yeah. So
Pull
yeah,
a draw.
a sort of draw from the list. That's nice. Seconded by Councillor Davis. All in favour of that procedure? Okay. Any against? No? Great. Right. That's that one.
So we're pulling names from a hat from the community champions.
From the community champions.
So we don't have to give an opinion, so that's good.
Yeah. And yeah, we'll each be there to ensure the process is yeah. Item 16 then. Policies to review and adopt the co-option policy attached, which is now a requirement for the silver level of the local council award scheme.
So it's credit to the interest in local politics in Oswestry that it's never hasn't had to co-opt members for a very long time. However, should it happen, we need to have a policy in place, and we don't. This has been drawn up from standard guidance and strengthened by research from other organisations. But there is a section I do need to highlight. It's on page 2, because this is quite crucial. So where the number of candidates is less than or equal to the number of vacancies. So say you've got one vacancy and you've only got one name being put forward, you are, as per this policy, you are duty bound to accept them if they're qualified. Now, in some parish councils, they don't like that. Because they don't necessarily like the people who've been put forward. But I think if there had been an election, they would be been voted in. So I think that's a really good addition to the policy. So yeah, we need one. I think it's relatively straightforward, complies with the law, and I ask you to support it.
Move it. Okay. It's been moved, seconded. Thirded, fourthed. All in favour? Thank you. Yes, unanimous. Okay, we've got reports from the town clerk on council projects. Where am I?
So is that okay if I speak?
Yes, sorry, yes.
Yeah,
Of course.
so good progress on a number of projects. There's a couple of appeared as green, which is always nice to see. In the main body of the report, it gives you an update on the UK SPF funding. So your council are aware that we've received £100,000, and we're slowly progressing the key decisions on that. So, for example, the clock will be in place in January. The mural's already been done. Improving external and internal lighting. On there, just for noting, is that we have gone through a procurement exercise to select a company to do the floor. They are accredited, and we've gone with a lower cost option. We're just making sure, double checking their work, and we're in the process of doing that, so that will take place. And then aside from that, just update you on the meeting about the skate park. So just to let you know that I did meet with Shropshire Council members and officers on the 22nd of November. Basically, they want to understand the level of interest from Oswestry Town Council in the skate park.
Right.
Because they're exploring options. So I obviously gave them. I'll be honest. I think the line I gave is, we are really keen to be involved in this project. We've got some funding. I think you should let us get on with it. Was the feedback I gave, but I have yet to have any update from that meeting.
Thank you, Aaron. Councillor Moore.
Try and get through this without cursing. So we've expressed an interest to this for years now. I'm trying to think when the initial, myself and the mayor first worked on a petition with some young people. I want to say 6 years ago.
Yeah, I was thinking about
Something
2018.
about 6
wasn't it?
years ago that we started that first petition. That first petition didn't go through. Since then, Councillor Rose has now started working with Theo from Mule on another petition, and all the way through we've also been constantly chasing after this land. I'm currently working with Heritage England, English Heritage, to ascertain some of the damage that's been done to the hill fort. So their curator is writing a letter currently, which is hopefully going to, it's going to come to the clerk at some point for use with sending to Shropshire Council. It's going to highly recommend not only that the young people need the skate park for the reasons many councillors have been shouting about for a number of years now, but also that the heritage and the history of Oswestry is actually being put at risk due to the amount of damage that's being done by mountain bikes on the earthworks. The damage is such that while gates have been removed and destroyed at the bottom, access to the hill fort so that people can get their bikes up there in the first place, and the skidding around and the use of those bikes on there has caused significant damage to some of the ancient earthworks. So it's really, really high on their priority list. So I think that not only do we suggest that it's not just the town council that are very keen that Shropshire Council support this, but also English Heritage are, as will this incoming letter show as well. So this is becoming quite a dire thing now, that we really need to provide these facilities because they are going to keep using the hill fort. And it's very difficult to explain to a young person how historically important that is, when really all they want to do is ride their bikes. So give them a better positioned location and they won't go up the hill fort anymore. It's really, really simple. So so I propose that we can add that in as well, and that letter should hopefully be with you before Christmas, and I'll make sure that gets to you.
Great. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kerr.
Agree with everything that's just been said by Councillor Moore, and probably is it time we actually ask Councillor Macy, who I think is the Cabinet member responsible for this area, to come to the Town Council and explain why it seems to be like pulling teeth, isn't it? It's just so very, very painful, and I can't get a straight answer as to what the problems are. So I think my resolution is that we invite Councillor Rob Macy to come to the Town Council and explain why Shropshire Council will not release the land to the Town Council so we can get on and build a pump track that's desperately needed by the young people of Oswestry, and will prevent, as has been outlined, further damage to some important historical areas.
Thank you. Councillor Moore.
Just for clarification, I'm sure it's just a terminology thing. Councillor Kerr said pump track in there, and obviously the initial discussion was the skate park, which is what the clerk mentioned. We are trying to do both of those things, just to clarify that we want a skate park and a pump track, and we do know that there's a difference between them, and we don't need another petition starting or anything for the second one. So.
No misunderstandings. Absolutely. Are you seconding Councillor Kerr's with that slight clarification?
Except that was always the intentions of both, yes.
Absolutely, whatever's the best way forward.
Anyone else wish to speak before? Okay, sorry, Councillor Milner?
I just want to say, 3 minutes of thanks to the clerk and officers. They've done a lot of work here. They're doing well to get through it, so I'd like to minute of thanks to them.
Yeah, please do. Councillor Rose.
Just if anyone wants to share the e-petition on Shropshire Councils, we need to get to 1,000 signatures for them to discuss it. So, if we end up still dragging along, that would be another thing to do. But we're only about third way through so far.
Yeah. Pardon?
Just to add, that does put further pressure on the administration when it's a debate at council. It might seem 100,000, it would be good.
Yeah, so advertising the e-petition for the skate park pump track to be,
That's for you to do,
that's for us to do.
Yeah.
Okay,
local campaigning.
okay, everyone. We've got to share that ourselves and try and encourage as many people as possible to sign. Yeah, minuted thanks. But does anyone else have anything to say or questions to ask about projects before we just vote on Councillor Kerr and Councillor Moore's proposal? Oh, okay, thank you. In that case, all in favour then of inviting Councillor Macy to come and discuss our aspirations for those residents. Thank you. Yeah, none against. That was unanimous. 17B, Post Office, to receive a verbal update from the Town Clerk, following our meeting held on the 27th of November to discuss.
So just in terms of, I've sent a copy of the letter. It is a very close copy to the one that was sent to the MP, I believe, but we have had a response. It doesn't directly address some of the points that we made, as in we would like a public meeting, but it does give you a very good update in terms of where the Post Office are in the process, in that they are for a month inviting expressions of interest. So it's you know, you need to be mindful of that when discussing other options. So just to give you an update on other actions that we've taken. So you'll have seen the Save Our Post Office banner up on the reception on the digital screen. You'll have seen it on Christmas Music Live on the big screen as well. So we are going to met with Osprey Bid. They are keen to support a campaign. However, it is on the basis that there's clarification based on facts and not rumour about closure. And in terms of getting information out there, Oswestry Life be prepared to work with us on a campaign, and they would deliver any letters that we want free of charge to their to the people who receive Oswestry Life. We have got prices for the post office, as I was asked to do. My concern with that process, it's very reasonable, but it's almost a 2-month process from writing the letter to the resident getting it. And I'm concerned the risk in there is that the message is completely changed by the time, and you look daft, basically. So that's what we got up to. But obviously the key point, as set out in our letter, is that was a franchise being considered.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I mean that's really interesting information, isn't it? That there might not be a straightforward closure. Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, I suppose the Post Office want a franchise operator for Oswestry, and probably that's the most realistic way of saving an outlet here. There's one question I'd like to write back to them on. They say that they're committed to maintaining 11,500 branches and meeting the access criteria set by the government. So I'd be interested to know whether the access criteria requires them to have another outlet in Oswestry. I know they claim they've got a sub-postmaster on Middleton Road, but what does it actually mean in terms of the number of outlets they're required to have in Oswestry? I'm also made aware, as Clark made me aware, following a question to him, that there is at least one town council that actually runs a post office, and whereas it would not be my preferred option, I do think we owe it to the public of the town to actually send the town clerk on a little trip. I think it's Helsham, isn't it? To actually go and talk to that town council. He doesn't have to go on a trip if he doesn't want to, but actually to talk to that town council about how that's worked, how they got involved in running that town post office, and what financial implications that has been. And it's not to put out there that we want to run the post office, but I do think we just need to look and see what they've done and how it works there, and then report back to us. So we've got it as a potential option for the future.
Interesting.
Motion, isn't it?
Yeah, so a motion to write to the post office.
Yeah, about their access criteria to
Yeah.
see what that means for Oswestry.
Okay, and
then
also
to investigate
how the town council could potentially.
Go there if he wants to. I don't mind.
Yeah, sort of be involved in running a post office.
So just in terms of other actions that you agreed at the extraordinary meeting, I wonder if it's worthwhile sharing this letter that we've received from the post office with the parish clerks of our neighbouring councils.
Yeah.
Well, they've told me I can share it with colleagues. So I have correspondence that says I can share it with colleagues, so I think it's okay. Although it does say confidential, which is why I asked for clarification. So at least I can share the content, perhaps not the letter itself, with clerks, and perhaps encourage them to have the matter on their on their agendas. Is that okay?
Yeah. Okay. Does Councillor Kerr have a seconder for his? Thank you, Councillor Coburn. All in favour then? Thank you. Any against? Any abstention? No. Right, thank you. Are you happy with that,
Yeah,
Aaron?
just to let you know that this will be a standard item on the agenda up until we've got some clarity, so it gives us, so stuff comes in, we've got it, and that the Mayor has delegated, that I am meeting with the, who am I meeting with tomorrow? I'm meeting with the Chairman of the Austria Area Committee tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, so hopefully to discuss the cooperative, collaborative approach that we hope all the local councils will lend to this. Okay, so 17C, support to Oswestry Town Charities. Another verbal update.
So I don't know how much you realise how much support that we actually give to Oswestry Town Charities. It includes so as a trustee, he's a nominated trustee from. I don't know.
Pardon?
So Frank is a trustee. So there's a question being put if he's got an interest. I don't know. Yeah. So you don't know what I'm going to say, do you? Okay. Do you think I should leave? No. I can't give you an opinion on whether you should leave or not. You know what I think I briefed the trustees. It might be prudent for you to step outside then from just for because it will be on your register of interest, won't it? As a other registrable interest. Yeah. So the key issue, I don't think you realise the extent of support that we give to the town charities, both property management, financial and governance. It's quite extensive. It's slowly dawned on me that the managing the property is, these are 10 almshouses with people who are defined as needy, is quite time consuming, and that not only that, we need to be providing them with a very good service. I don't think we are giving them a very good service. I think we're giving them an okay service. So I spoke to the trustees last week, and I've basically served notice that they need to find a letting agency to take on the property portfolio. I don't think it should be managed by the town council in future. There's too many risks and we're not adding any value. They understand and are supportive, but I need to let you know that that's the case as well. We'll still provide them with finance and governance support and support them to find a letting agency. It means that they can have emergency out of our contact. Currently, that's me, or the chair, and it's just not giving vulnerable people, the right level of support. So I think this is a really good way forward. The charity are happy, but I obviously need to let you know that this is the case as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Any comments, questions, or because I'm happy to move that. Is there a seconder? Thank you. All in favour? Thank you. That one's unanimous. Okay, report from the Finance Officer to adopt those two dated 15th of November and 28th of November. The sundry creditors, sorry. Move we adopt. Seconded. All in favour? Thank you. Operations Manager's report on the estate. Thank you, Henry.
Thank you. 4 items for 2 to note, 2 for discussion, please. So the first one is street lighting tender. Just to update councillors, the tender process is now live, with the application window open until 12 noon on Friday the 17th of January. All applications received by this time shall be reviewed and a report shall be brought to council in February for discussion and also appointment as well. The other item to note is the health and safety SLA that we have with Shropshire Council has been renewed for a further 12 months. We found that their support and guidance has been very worthwhile on various matters. So that's that one. The carbon audit. Officers have been in discussion with the MEA, Manchester Energy Agency, requesting them to carry out full carbon audit on the council. The question is, which financial year would you like it to cover? Either, as we enter in the fourth quarter of this financial year, do you want it for the 23-24 year, or wait for 5 months and do it for the 24-25 financial year?
Which will be the best?
That's what you want to do. We haven't got
Before my time.
Right.
So at least three years plus ago.
Better to get it done on the figures that we've got in full now, because we haven't, you're saying 3 years, was it?
The last one.
The last one. So it's already 3 years. And probably should do them more often than that, really.
Okay.
Just an idea.
Yeah. Okay, so happy to second that. Any other comments, questions for the operations manager on his report
We obviously need to deal with the car park exit.
and the car park exit?
So
Right,
I think we've
I'll-
dealt
I'll-
with everything else, haven't we?
Let's just have a vote on those two. Hang on. To approve a preferred approach on the exit. Right, okay, yes, so we haven't dealt with that, have we? Right, so the height of the bumps stroke humps on the exit. They're currently, oh sorry, Councillor Coburn. I was just going to say, yeah, just to recap, they're currently below the height that we specified when the work was carried out. So remedial action can be taken, but what approach do councillors wish to take? Councillor Coburn and then Councillor Moore.
I drive along Roth Street to go home from work every day. Cars come out of there faster than they should be, I think. So it's not just a risk for pedestrians walking across, but for car drivers, and particularly for people coming out of Ferrers Road, either on foot or in car. And I think anything we can do to slow it down, I would support. I never have any issues over the entrance into the car park, and I would support that the exit match the entrance.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Moore?
Councillor Coburn said it's fine.
Yep. Okay, so Councillor Owen.
The humps are on a hill, aren't they, going out? Is there any impact on, obviously going in flat, if you increase it to the same height, is there any impact with speed because you're going into the hump that it would be more...
Do not want to take Henry's thunder because he's obviously done the work on this. The issue is that the ground falls away, so the drop is more than the 75 mil. So what the issue we had when they were 75 mil is that cars were dragging the or getting caught, and there was a lot of criticism. I don't know if you recall. And anything, to be fair, anything to do with Central Car Park has been a very difficult decision, hasn't it? So yeah. The issue is more about the drop beyond beyond the bump, as opposed to leading into the bump.
Can I ask Henry though, because Peter, requested that we get a highways engineer expert into it, but presumably the work we've had done is based on advice and designs from such people.
Yes.
Is it just that the work has not been carried out to the specification in this case?
The replacement?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the company, we can approach them.
Which I've already approached them.
Yeah. So that's in hand, basically. Okay, so are we... Yeah, sorry. Councillor Kerr.
One thing you mentioned about painting a pedestrian crossing on the exit, I think that's desperately needed actually, so we can do that. I think that's a subsidiary issue that would help, because There is nothing, I haven't gone past the barrier to show you there's a narrow crossing point. But to my mind, the thing about plastic speed bumps is when you approach them, you don't quite know what they are. So you're going to slow down because you're uncertain, because it could have nasty little gates. You slow down. Unfortunately, you see a tarmac bump, you know exactly what it is. And many people know they can hit that at quite some speed, and there'll be a bit of a bump, but it will be fine on their particularly large car. So I'm a little bit concerned that we've gone from something which actually seemed to work quite well, I do understand there's maintenance issues, into something which clearly doesn't, because I've witnessed myself, before Peter raised this issue, I watched a few cars come out myself and they're going far too fast. And they weren't before. And I think it's just, and I don't think it's the height, because they're not able in their car to measure. Difference between 50 and 70 mil from your driver's seat is, you can't see it, but it's because of the uncertainty you get when you have a yellow plastic barrier. You just think, ooh, I better be careful. So I would urge us to go back to the previous barrier we had and then put up, and at some level you're going to get complaints, because something that slows cars down is going to cause some people to go too fast and they have a problem, so they should. That's what it's there to do.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Davis.
Yeah, I'm not against safety in any way whatsoever, but I'm a little bit confused with this. 2 points really. Are we getting involved with an highways issue? Is the issue when the car is actually out of the car park? And if the car is slowing down on the ramp where it is, it's got to stop to get out of the junction. So I'm getting confused here. You don't go over that speed bump at high speed and go straight out on the road. It's a hell of a junction. You've got to stop and have a really good look at what's coming. And then if you pull away from the car park with a bit of speed, well, I do that. I'm all in favour of that because I want to get off the dangerous junction.
No,
So I don't know what the issue is here. I really don't. When we altered it and put the refuge in the middle for people to stop in the middle, I thought that was a brilliant thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think
You know,
it's... Yeah.
At the end of the day, if you can't cross a junction, and if you're crossing the other way on any of the junctions, it's wider than crossing the exit of the car park, which is probably more dangerous. I can't see what we can do to make it any better. Sorry, just my...
No, yeah, no, I hear you. But as Peter has said, and repeatedly said, it's the amount of information that's presented to drivers as they come out there. They don't see pedestrians because they're far more... I can't think of the word, but they're looking at so many other things, that the cars and the layout of the road, etc., that even what might not seem like particularly high speed, if they don't see a pedestrian crossing, then it's going to, you know, any vehicle impacting a pedestrian can potentially be quite catastrophic. So we need to get this right, because at the moment we're not even talking about 55 mil or whatever it's supposed to be. It's down to 30 or 40. Is that the measurements?
Slight difference of opinion, but
yeah,
it's less than 50 mil.
And so it's not even, and perhaps because of Councillor Kerr's comment that it's tarmac rather than plastic, some drivers are not even seeing it as, they're not even having caution as they're going over. They're aiming to stop at the edge of what the road that they're about to join, and they're not slowing and taking into account that there might be pedestrians at that point. And so it's it is a really complex little combination of things that, so where we are is, though, that at the moment the company can be approached to remedy the work, but Councillor Kerr's proposing that we go back to a plastic yellow and black, sort of more visible.
Off the wall a bit, the only other option would be to have like a police beacon, to have a button that pedestrians can press with a light that stops cars. So there's actually a red light. And this is not on a highway, so it doesn't have to comply with highways on private land, but there's a button on either side that when a pedestrian needs to cross, they press the button and the red light appears for the car. Visually over.
Something we've not considered.
No. But it's one way of saying pedestrians now have priority.
Could it be investigated? Is it something that we can investigate?
Let's get all points together and see if we can pull something together.
Okay, so
Councillor Moore.
Councillor Moore, sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Kerr sort of touched on what I was just thinking, but I was thinking whether or not there is an option, if there was a barriered exit and a button for pedestrians to cross, that the barrier wouldn't raise while, you know, so there's a physical barrier. I haven't considered the light, but I would imagine a similar system probably would exist, but with a barrier, and whether or not we could investigate that. And the other thing was, unless I misunderstood either Peter's point or Councillor Kerr's point, you said about the pedestrian crossing, the white. You said about painting the white on there. Yeah, the Peter made the point about that adding an additional distraction to it, and something that we should avoid. So we've got to think about adding something to it that's not an additional distraction. And I feel like a barrier is something that's very final, isn't it? You know.
Going
yeah.
back to the barriers, there was always an issue with them breaking down, wasn't there? And once the barrier's broken down and you have to put it in the raised position to allow people to get out, then they speed up again, and pedestrians no longer have that protection that they were relying on, and they might not be aware that the barrier's not working, and so
Yeah.
again, that's a
all fair.
complicated issue, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it highlights the difficulty with this particular junction. And you know, you did invest quite a lot of money in making some improvements. The plastic humps work, but they're not robust. The team were having to bolt them up every morning, just because the volume of traffic. You know, there's a significant volume of traffic, which is, as Peter said, you know, so many cars go through there, they just can't cope with that, which is why we went for the tarmac hump. So I just wonder, perhaps as a way forward,
Yeah.
that we obviously need to make sure that the hump that was installed is the right shape
Yeah.
and the right size.
And could we paint it yellow? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Proper thick
Yeah.
paint.
And then perhaps we can get you're going to have to pay for this if you're on the advice of a traffic engineer or a highways, and see what else can be done to improve it, including the solutions that you put forward this evening.
Okay. Sorry, Councillor Moore, then Councillor Davis.
So just very, very quickly, a potentially practical solution for Henry. The staff are tightening up the bolts on the. Has anybody used any thread lock?
Well, they're not doing it now, are they? Because
No,
those,
but
yeah.
in the past, was that ever done? Because I mean, I'm talking like huge industrial machines, which are, you know, commanding like huge hammers and things like that, that, you know, weigh tons, that, you know, every single day take thousands and thousands of hits and don't come unbolted because they're thread locked. A car, I should be able to drive monster trucks over that and not have any issues. So the reason it's coming undone from cars is because I think there's probably hasn't been thread locked, which is a very, very simple solution. It costs 20 quid. So if we're going to go back to that, then I'd highly recommend making aware of what's available.
They were deteriorating, you know, they were wearing as well as that. So
Yeah, but they wouldn't need to be tightened up every morning, though. I mean, when we're talking about the wear on them, are we talking about needing new plastic humps every week, month, 6 months? What's the and then what's the cost to them? So every year needing to replace, probably not all of them because they're segmented, aren't they? So I would imagine there would be, you know, 2 or 3 segments in that every 12 months that need, you know, where obviously where the wheels go, the ones in between the wheels and on the externals of the wheels aren't taking wear, I assume. So what's the cost annually to this? And then when we balance that up against somebody getting hit potentially by a car because people are going out there, well, you know, where's the value for money?
Might not have those figures right now.
Yeah, that's a difficult judgment.
Yeah.
I think what we're saying, you know, we've put tarmac humps in place that should be of exactly the same profile as the rubber ones. So that's what we asked for, and we haven't been given that, have we? So you know, we wanted a permanent solution to a temporary issue. We haven't got that. I think the first instance, should we make sure that we get that in place, and do that as a matter of priority. Getting painted yellow as a matter of priority as well. and then just and monitor it and get the advice of it. See if we can get the advice of a highways engineer. But I'll have to come back to you with a cost.
Yeah. Okay, and Councillor Davis was waiting as well.
Yeah, can we look at the pedestrian side of it instead of the car side of it? I've seen Ty in other places on the junction by Sainsbury's, it says look left for the pedestrian on the sign if you want to cross the road because the cars are coming up a different way. And I've seen it, thinking about it, in Chester on the exit of other car parks where the footpath crosses, they've just put a sign saying, you know, look in the direction you're not used to looking at. So whether you could have a simple sign just for the pedestrians each way, so when they're coming to the exit of the car park, instead of just, you know, just a warning, oncoming cars, take care, look left or something, just for the pedestrian. Because, you know, at the end of the day, I guess it depends where you are and who God forbid, if somebody hits somebody, who's responsible. It's not always the car, is it? That's all I'm saying. There's always two sides to everything. And there's more dangerous junctions and exits than that car park.
So we could
It's
look
just
at,
the fact that it's on a bad three-way junction.
we could look at look left, look right, paint
Just
just
a
as they're
warning,
about to cross.
Car park exit, look left if you're coming the one way.
Yeah.
Just give them a bit of warning. I've seen the council put them, well, they're around town if you have a look on different junctions.
Yeah.
So I think as Deja was being the experts, let's get some expertise in. Let's rectify making sure that the humps are in the right shape,
Yeah. We got what we
at
paid
the right
for.
height, erring on the higher,
Higher.
as opposed to the lower. Make sure we get that right. Make sure that they're painted yellow, and in terms of looking at options, we're obviously going to have to consult a highways engineer, but we'll have to, perhaps in the state's report in the new year, we'll bring some quotes forward.
I propose the words depart as way forward.
Pardon?
I propose the
Yeah.
words depart as a way forward.
And for the carbon audit, as proposed by Councillor Rose, go ahead using existing
Last year,
data.
last year,
All in favour?
23, 24.
Thank you. Right. Item 20, make a change, make a difference grant, Oswestry Youth Forum.
So this is just for you to note and to celebrate that you've got the youth forums working really proactively for their peers. They're launching a grant scheme, thought about it very carefully, and yeah, I just wanted to just highlight to you, it's a shame it's so late on the agenda and we've had a hard meeting, but it just highlights that young people's ideas should be at the forefront of submissions, and if you could work in your communities to promote that, that would be brilliant.
Yeah, it's working really, really well. I'm so pleased about this. And so, yeah, another thanks to Corrie for all the work that she puts into this. And I hope that we can discuss it at greater length at a future meeting. Yeah, thank you. All in favour? Thank you very much. So item 21, exclusion of public and press, to resolve that we evict any non-members and non-essential staff. All in favour?